Broadcasting from the Meredith Hall Studios out of Carson City, Nevada. You're listening to Covering the Field with Big Richard Martin, Gator Gates, and Joe the Answer Ellison.
Welcome to Covering the Field. I'm Joe Ellison, and with me today are my fantastic colleagues, Big Richard Martin and Gator Gates. Fellas, let's begin as always with football. Big Rich, what happened during Week 10 in the National Football League?
What a wild Week 10 we had last week. Philly finally goes down. Finally got upset. We predicted it here on the show that Washington would cover that spread, and not only did they cover the spread, they covered the game.
Obviously you can run on the Eagles, the Redskins.
Right. Well, Jordan Davis is Jordan Davis is out for Philadelphia, and they average roughly around 3 yards per carry when he's in there. Without him, they averaged 5 yards per carry. So they were definitely exposed. Washington had a 51 play first half, which is most in the NFL this year.
That's crazy.
So Tyler Heineke's looking pretty good out there. Yeah, they gave him a bunch of bling afterwards on the ride home on the jet home. It was kind of cool seeing him with all the other players are living up, and I think that Carson Wentz is going to have to take a seat when he gets back and healthy.
It seems like whatever team Carson Wentz is going to end up on, he's going to end up taking a seat eventually.
Okay.
Did you guys notice the Philly was minus 11 at William Hill, and Washington won by 11?
Oh, so they flipped the script.
Flipped it.
And the 1972 Miami Dolphins can enjoy their champagne. There's no undefeated teams. And then what do you got, Gator, on? What about the best game? We had the best game of the year and the worst game of the year this year, the last week. We had the Rams and Cardinals, which was added in the worst game. And then we had the Vikings and Buffalo played the game of the year for sure.
Well, exactly.
Well, yeah, that was a great game. Minnesota converting that 4th and 18 play, a great catch by Jefferson. You got to knock that ball down when you're the defender.
Is Jefferson now taking over the king of wide receivers in the league? I think he's got to be the wide receiver. He was making those catches.
No, he's the best receiver in the league. Okay. I would have to say. Yeah. But still, that defender needs to knock that ball down. It's 4th and 18.
Yep, you would think. You would think it. It came down to the end, and they came through. He's clutch. What can you say, Gator? What happened with the books on those?
Okay, well, Minnesota, the bubble game, it was a roller coaster ride for the books this week. The uncertainty with Josh Allen made the point spread move dramatically throughout the week.
Right.
Now, you got to follow me on this. On Monday, the line was Buffalo minus 8.5.
Right, and it was before the game. I think before they knew he was injured, I think it was up to 9.5. So Josh Allen goes out.
Some of the books, yeah. So on Saturday morning, the line dropped to -3, and that was because Josh didn't practice almost all week, just here and there. So that was Saturday morning. Well, that was on Saturday afternoon. It was reported that Josh would be active, and then the line started to move back up.
Well, you can see that. He's worth 7 points, I would say. Wouldn't you say there, Joe? He's worth 7 points. I think that's the way Vegas looks at it.
Case Keenum is a backup, right? That's a pretty big difference.
Well, by Sunday morning, the line, like you said, was around 6.5. So that was a great guess, 7. But with about 60 minutes before kickoff, Allen wasn't on the field. So as soon as the bettors saw this, the line dropped to -5, a point and a half. But after a little time passed, Josh came back out on the field, and here we go again. The line jumps right back to 6.5 right at the kickoff.
Sean McDermott, why are you so secretive? Why can't you just tell if he's going to play or not? It's unbelievable.
So you know what happened, right? Minnesota wins.
Well, there was that fumble on the 1 yard line. They shouldn't have won the game.
That's definitely a "you got hosed" segment coming.
Is that coming up on?
I think it is coming. Well, everybody got hosed on that. You would think I turned the channel because I thought it was over. I went to another game and I saw it was in overtime, and I'm like, how is that possible? That Josh Allen would fumble the ball
and then go down there and kick a field goal to tie it up and send it to overtime after that. So that's pretty wild finish.
It was wild. And then they didn't score and had the interception by Peterson at the end of the game. It was just an awesome game to watch. It was just good. I think the Bills are everybody's favorite. They're still favored. Don't you have them in the books? The Bills are still the number one team.
Yeah,
they're still favored to win Super Bowl. I mean, I think that injury. Do you think that injury caused the poor play?
No.
Of Josh Allen?
No, he just blew it.
Yeah.
Well, definitely didn't cause him to fumble, but still, that was just a tough one to lose. They had the game won. They should have won the game.
It's just shocking because you don't see Josh Allen do that too often.
No.
That's all, but it does happen.
So the Bills moved from number 1 seed to the 6th seed. If the playoffs started today.
Oh, it was the 6? I thought maybe it was the 5.
It was, yeah, they're all the way down to 6 or
okay.
6 or second at the bottom. So
all right,
just crazy.
Yeah. Another crazy game, the Green Bay Dallas game. Green Bay scored the last 17 points.
17 unanswered, and Dak was being Dak again, throwing interceptions in the end zone. That definitely cost them. They got to run the ball. I mean, it's just very simple. That was the success earlier with which was the backup Cooper. I mean, what's the backup for Dallas? There.
Pollard, Tony Pollard.
No, the backup quarterback.
Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush, yes.
Yeah.
He, that was the success, run the ball and don't make mistakes. And, it seemed like they got to win.
I'm in too much of a hockey game. Maybe you can help me out, Richard. Because I would keep the person, a goalie. If a goalie is hot, you don't change that goalie. I don't care if he's your third string. So I'm not understanding in football why we're paying this guy $30 million more than this guy. And so we have to start him.
Success. I don't think it's that. I think that they just have that much trust in him. I think that he's their franchise player and they're going to stay with him. I think that he might be winning, but he is nowhere the quarterback that Dak is.
And I'm not saying that, but got to ride him like in hockey. We're going to ride that goalie until he shows us that he's going bad. And then when he gets pulled, you'll see the goalie get upset that he got pulled, but he understands that he's on a short leash.
Well, Rush's last game, he did throw 3 interceptions. So that was the sign, I guess. Okay, Dak, get back out on the field.
Okay, good. I'll take that, Joe. That was good.
All right, good.
And Dallas was 195-0 in the fourth quarter, leading by 14 or more points.
That's
until
Aaron Rodgers.
That's a ridiculous.
There was an Aaron Rodgers showing. Yeah. He finally came back, so it's good. Good to see that in Green Bay land, cheeseheads have something to be happy about. They got to win. But it's one game. They're still back. They're still way out of the playoff picture, and
they got Derrick Henry maybe running the ball down their throat this week.
It's going to be a great game on Thursday.
Be a good game on Thursday night. We got to credit Tom Brady, Tampa Bay, winning in Munich. He's never lost in another country. He's played like 4 or 5 games.
Right. So, well, if you got up and watched that, it was an early game. If you got up and watched it, what a great sight in Munich. I think that, definitely Germany embraced it. Pilsner and football and 100,000 fans out there. They were having a great time. I mean, they got their money's worth. And then they got to see Tom Brady run a pass and then get a kicking penalty.
Yellow card.
He should have got a yellow card for kicking somebody. I don't know. But anyway, that's pretty embarrassing for him. But I mean,
Seattle didn't score in the first half. Tried to make it a game at the end, but it was a little too much to overcome. Miami crushed Cleveland. Tua Tagovailoa 8-0 as a starter in finishing a game.
Right. When he starts and finishes. He's 7-1 as a starter. He got knocked out of the Cincinnati game. Right. That's the only one he lost that he started, and he didn't finish that game. But Tua is terrific. I mean, how can you not say it? Miami is just rolling. Tua is efficiency in the red zone. He has not thrown any interceptions. And on third down, he has almost a 67% completion rate. So he is getting it done on third down and in the red zone, which makes you a great quarterback in the NFL.
Makes you a great picker because you had that at the preseason. You haven't wavered. So I give you a lot of credit on picking that one.
And what about Tennessee? I mean, they beat up on the Broncos, and then now all of a sudden they moved from 50-1 to 16-1 odds to win the Super Bowl in one game against Russell Wilson that never got in the red zone the whole game. So
right.
But those stats, Joe drove me stats that are 7-2. Tennessee 7-2 for the year against the spread. I think they're 7-1 their last 7.
They're underrated. I'll go through a bunch of those in a little while. Denver was leading 10-0 in that game in the first quarter. Never scored again.
So
that'll hurt. Those punters got to work out, didn't they? I'm telling you what, man. I mean, they got. I've never seen there was more kicking going on there than the World Cup is going to be happening for sure.
Rugby,
yeah.
Speaking of no score and a half, the Chargers leading at halftime against the Niners, 16-10. They never scored again and lost 22-16. Austin Eckler got bottled up
a little bit.
I think what did
San Francisco
24
defense.
Yards rushing,
39. That San Francisco defense is
3 sacks on
definitely the
Herbert.
best in the league.
Yeah. So
nice. And plus everything else, 3 sacks and length, not huge, but plus everything else that they did in that game, their defense is just right there playing as a team.
Jacksonville was +3 in the turnover margin and lost by 10 points at Kansas City. That's hard to do.
Right.
Jeff Saturday's first game, Indianapolis head coach. He wins at Vegas. And then Derek Carr starts crying.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the bigger story.
I know. You're a Raider quarterback, for God's sakes, Derek Carr. Stop crying. You can't be crying if you're a Raider quarterback. I mean, it's unbelievable. Under over, he's going to cry 3 times after the Bronco game out.
Well, they were booed off the field.
And they should have been. They should have been booed.
I think
Colts just beat them.
Houston's officially the worst run defense in the league. As the Giants ran it like 50-something times. I don't know. It seemed like it. And
Barkley had 35 carries for 152 yards.
Just by himself.
35 carries. Whoa, what a workload.
Yeah. And Pittsburgh defeated New Orleans. TJ Watt came back. And what a difference.
Oh, big time.
The defense was amazing. And they shut New Orleans out in the second half.
They sure did. I mean, Danny Dalton looked absolutely terrible 2 weeks in a row.
New Orleans' second straight loss.
Yeah. They lost Monday night to Baltimore the week before.
So shall we look forward to week 11?
Okay.
What's the latest injury and player news?
Well, I guess the biggest injury is on my fantasy team. Cooper Kupp is no longer going to be playing for this year. He's out for 6 weeks at least, having ankle surgery today. Zach Ertz, the tight end for Arizona, goes out with an ACL, and Gator, the tight end for Philadelphia, has a shoulder injury. He's going to miss an extended period of time.
Okay. Benjamin is now on Houston, not on Arizona. That's interesting. Baker Mayfield is going to be starting for Carolina.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I thought, PJ Walker played a great game on Thursday night. I mean, I could see benching him after the game before when he had 3 interceptions in the first quarter.
It is very strange. He just won, and now he's getting benched.
No one knows what's going on in Carolina. Let's be honest. I mean, we don't even try to think that we can understand what they're doing in Carolina, but I know that Baker Mayfield's going to get the start. Sam Donald's going to back him up. So they're back to what they started. And actually, they're only 2 games out of first.
We'll see. Well, they're paying Mayfield more. So
exactly.
And Juju Smith-Schuster in concussion protocol. Jerry Jeudy, who I picked up last week in my fantasy team, gets hurt like in the first quarter, and now they say he's basically fine. I mean, what's going on there?
It didn't look like he wanted to get back on the field.
He didn't want to play Tennessee.
He didn't want to play Tennessee anymore. They play physical out there, and just Tennessee, you can show how deep they are. They're on their second and third string cornerbacks, and they're still playing great football. They still not. Russell Wilson could do nothing. They had a pass rush. So I'm going to lead that into my pick tomorrow. I'm taking Tennessee in the snow, Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers they finally got Watson out there, got 3 touchdowns. They found somebody who can catch the ball, at least in Green Bay. But I like Tennessee.
All right,
this week.
So one game, I guess, to look forward to: Arizona and San Francisco playing in Mexico Monday night. So that'll be. That's a must watch.
That is a must watch. It's going to be in Mexico City, right? And it's going to be at probably at 5,000, 6,000 feet.
Right, Azteca.
Yeah, Azteca. Yeah. So they'll be at above sea level. I mean, 6,000. Like it's going to be like a mile high. So it's like the
70-yard field goal is possibility.
It's possibility. It's kicking the ball good out there in Mexico this week on Monday night.
Well, we're going to do what we usually do every week. We're going to take a look at last week's games, point spread wise. As usual, the dogs covered more than the favorites. 9 underdogs, 5 favorites, 8 dogs, 1 straight up.
Wow.
Yes. We had 8 overs and 6 unders, which is a little opposite of what we usually get. We usually get more unders. Through week 10, 88 underdogs, 62 favorites, covering
59 dogs have won straight up. 64 road teams have won straight up.
Wow.
We've had 87 unders and 63 overs over the course of the season.
Wow.
Division games, 31 unders and 17 overs, although last week that didn't really go that way. AFC has 9 teams above 500. The NFC has 6. And there are 12 teams that are above 500 against the spread.
Wow.
So running it down, breaking it down, the best teams against the spread, as you mentioned, Tennessee, you mentioned that, Gator, and the New York Giants, 7-2. At 6-3 are the LA Chargers, Dallas, and the New York Jets, and at 6-4, Seattle and Atlanta. But I do believe Atlanta started 6-0, and now, now they're 6-4.
Right.
So be careful about that one. The worst teams, no surprise, the Rams, 2-6-1, Jacksonville and New Orleans, 3-7, Tampa Bay, 3-6-1, Las Vegas and Denver, 3-6.
And they play each other.
And they play each other.
Right. So something's got to have to give.
Something's got to give. Okay. The best teams to bet over on: Cleveland, 6-2-1 over. Philadelphia and Detroit are 6-3 overs. Chicago, 6-4. Vegas, 5-3-1 over. Best teams to bet under: Denver, of course.
Right.
8 out of 9 games have gone under.
Right.
Tampa Bay and Indianapolis, 8-2 under. Tennessee, the New York Giants, and Buffalo, 7-2 under. And again, we thank Butch, the Rain Man Roberts, for those statistics.
Good job, Rain Man. Keep them coming. Good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yep. So, Big Rich, having heard all that, what are your points choices?
Well, I did take a little bit of the Rain Man's advice last. Took a couple dogs. So I went 3-2 last week. So let's keep that streak going. And I'm going to start off with the Chicago team that you just talked about. I kind of fully agree. Atlanta, like you said, 4 straight against the spread. They've been absolutely horrible on their defensive backs. I see Justin Fields having a great game. Hopefully he can play the whole game. They gave up a 14-point lead last week to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Yeah, one interception return for a touchdown.
Right.
Critical.
But that's what you expect from a young quarterback. And, I think against Atlanta, they definitely covered the 4 points. I'm taking Chicago. I also am going to take Denver on the under. The only team that they did go under was the team they're playing this week.
Right. That one game went over 32-23 against Vegas.
So stay away from that. Just take Denver minus the 2.5. If you want to bet an under, we'll say that Derek Carr cries under 3 times this week. All right. So we'll go with that. I think Philadelphia bounces back. I think Philadelphia, they're 6.5 spread against Indianapolis. They're going to go in there. They're going to stomp them. And I like Dallas to bounce back against Minnesota. Minnesota's had a bunch of one-score wins. Probably 7 other games have been within, a touchdown. And I think Dallas gets it done. They bounce back. So I'm going to take the road dogs. I'm going to take a lot of road teams this week. I think except for Denver is at home. Mile High. Somebody's got to win that Denver Raider game. So I'm going to take Denver.
Yep. Well, it could end in a tie.
It could end in a tie, yeah.
And Gator, you got a pick or two you want to add to that?
Well,
are you in agreement?
Well, I like Minnesota because they're at home. And
against
Dallas. And
what about you, Joe? Because last time I was the lone guy on the Tampa Bay game and telling you Tom would bounce back.
Yes,
you guys
you
both
were
went against
exactly
me.
right.
So we'll see what you guys do. Joe, you're just got to be the deciding factor, aren't you? You can't, you're wearing a cowboy jacket. I mean, for God's sake.
In a sweater. I'll be staying away from the Minnesota-Dallas game this week because Minnesota, I think, is a little underrated considering their record.
Right.
And Dallas is on the road and they're favored by a point. Has me a little worried. I'm just going to sit and watch that game.
I think
Jefferson's going to have a good game too. So
you would also think Buffalo would bounce back and beat Cleveland, no problem.
Yeah,
I would think
that would be and they're playing in Cleveland, right?
No, they're playing in
Buffalo. Yeah. So you got to look at this.
Cleveland's defense leaves a lot to be desired.
Yes, very.
They can't score. So maybe we might lean over in that game, depending on Josh Allen's health. But by all accounts, it sounds like he's ready to go this weekend. He feels fine.
I would think so.
That's what they say. Any other picks there, Gator? Or was that it?
No, that's good.
Okay. Well, I had a very tough week. My picks went 1-3. My beloved Cowboys lost, and so did both my fantasy football teams. It was a rough weekend, I've got to tell you. But still, my NFL picks are 23-8 over the last 8 weeks. That's still 74%.
Can't beat that, Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, one bad week. This week, I like New England -3 at home against the New York Jets. Did you know New England has beaten the Jets 13 consecutive times?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Those are one of those things where you don't even think about it. You just do it.
Yep.
And
well, what about the Jets? Okay, so Zach Wilson, he gets beat at home against 2 weeks ago against New England. I can see him coming back having a good game, not make so much of those mistakes. It just the problem was he just he's under so much pressure. They got to open it up, and I think Saleh, the coach, is going to have a better game plan.
Well, Belichick also, he gets geared up for the Jets. That might have something to do with, besides the fact they're in the same division. He was, hired by the Jets to be the head coach back in the day, and he resigned the very next day.
I remember that.
Yeah. So there's a personal issue with him and the Jets. He loves beating them. I'm taking New Orleans -4 at home versus the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, as we mentioned, just lost Cooper Kupp. It seems like the only player who can do anything.
Exactly right now.
Wolford, the backup, is absolutely the worst backup in the NFL. I mean, he's the one that caused that injury to Kupp, overthrowing him and got him injured.
And they can't run the ball either. So they've basically had it. I'm going to go against you there. Rich, I'm trying Indianapolis +6.5 at home against Philadelphia. The Eagles can't stop the run. What do the Colts have? Jonathan Taylor.
Good pick.
I'm seeing.
I can see your point.
Down the dog. I'm thinking Matt Ryan is going to be playing quarterback. I hope so.
Yeah, that was the best thing Saturday.
Sam Ellinger, that'd be foolish because Matt Ryan looked pretty decent
against the Raiders.
Well, it was the Raiders. That's true. And Jeff Saturday, brought them some new life. So
you're going to drink the Kool-Aid.
I'm going to take 6.5 at home. Philly, has enjoyed a great beginning to the season. They could still win by 6 and cover. And finally, I'm going with Carolina +12 at Baltimore, just on principle because of the 12 points.
Right.
And anytime I see double digits, I totally lean that way. And, why not? Take 12.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, come through for me. We must now move on to college football, though. Unfortunately, we have to begin with the tragic circumstances at the University of Virginia. Big Rich, you want to try tackling this one? Share some details.
Just sad, execution style homicide. Just sad for the players. Somebody comes in, just opens fire. I mean, there's going to be more coming out of this, I believe, but it's just sad to see. 3
players on the University of Virginia football team were basically murdered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrible. Let's quickly move on. Rich, what were the big stories from last week's action?
Well, nothing really changed. I mean, the top 5 stayed and all 5 covered the spread. So Georgia, they look good. Tennessee bounced back. They put 66 on Missouri, hung 66 points on them. Alabama holds off Ole Miss. They were losing at halftime.
Didn't cover.
We said take Ole Miss in the points in that one.
Did.
And we also said Ohio State would beat down Indiana, which they did, 56-10. Michigan handled Nebraska, no problem at all, 34-3. They covered by the hook. I think the biggest surprise was Oregon losing at home to Washington. Michael Penix just laid it on him again. I mean, that guy is leading the nation in passing yards, and it's a tough loss for Oregon. It's pretty much knocked them out. USC is the only chance for anybody in the Pac-12 to make the
because Arizona won at UCLA. Well, that was a shocker.
That was a shocker. I mean, I couldn't believe the way they played.
Right.
So big letdown. They were at home and they should have won. So.
Okay.
Picks for last week were 3-3 in the NCAA.
A couple more I want to mention. TCU won at Texas to stay at number 4.
Yes.
And another big shocker, Vanderbilt winning at Kentucky. I mean, that was a huge money line too. So
yes. Vanderbilt finally got a win in the SEC. I don't think they've had any wins this year against SEC opponents.
Well, we got some big games coming up this Saturday. We're getting into the bigger rivalries now.
Yeah.
Like the big game, is a big game, as they call it. Stanford at California, although it's not so big considering how bad these teams are this year.
Right. Well, Cal has a good offense, and they should be able to have no problem taking on Stanford.
Okay. There's also USC at UCLA this weekend,
right?
And the Bedlam game, Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. So some good games to watch.
Right. And Oklahoma got beat by 7 last week?
Field goal.
Yeah. They were favored by 7 and they lost outright.
They were looking ahead to this
game. The Bedlam game. Okay.
They got nothing. They got really nothing to gain by winning any of these games. They can't win the conference. They're just going to go to a bowl game, and that's about it.
Okay. And one thing we got to watch when we're getting down to the end, it's look at the Big 12. We have to look at the West is just absolutely horrible. There's 4 teams at 7-4 that can still win the Big 10 West. You have Minnesota, you have Iowa, which is absolutely horrible on offense.
Right.
They got demolished by Ohio State, and you have Minnesota in there also. So I mean, there's 4 teams that are sitting at 7-4 that can still win the West. So,
and that will be
either Michigan or Ohio State next week.
It'll probably be Ohio State because they'll be at home, but we'll talk about that next week. You have picks for this week?
Sure do. All right. I'm going to take your TCU, just like you just said. They won again. They were at home 7-point dogs going into Texas.
No respect.
No respect at all for them, and they would just beat down the Longhorns. So I'm going to take them. They're only giving up 2.5. Still not getting any respect from Vegas. At Baylor, who just looked horrible last week. So minus 2.5. They lost at home last week. Baylor did so against Kansas State. So take TCU. Drop the 2.5. They should win by field goal.
Right.
All right. The Arizona game is really, really intriguing to me. They're just came off a big win at UCLA. Now they're at home hosting Washington State. Washington State scores a lot of points. Cameron Ward's a quarterback. He has 20 touchdowns. Passing, he has 3 rushing touchdowns on the year. And Robert Farrell, who is our Sparks wide receiver, number 12 out there. We can keep an eye on him, and I think they get it done. I'm going to drop the 4. I think Washington State gets it done in Arizona. All right. Kansas plus 9 at home against Texas. I mean, Kansas just beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat Texas. Kansas take the 9 points at home. I don't know if they'll win outright, but I like the Kansas plus 9. Jayhawks are tough to pick week to week, but I like the 9 points.
Make sure the quarterback is healthy on that one.
Okay.
All right.
And their backup, he was the starter. So he's actually okay, but he's not as good as
not quite as good.
Not as good. All right. Ole Miss minus 2 at Arkansas. I like Ole Miss to bounce back this week. They pretty much had Alabama beat all game, and then the second half they give up some big chunk runs, and they couldn't stop the run against Alabama. But I do see Ole Miss. They went to their 3rd string quarterback, Arkansas. They're down to their 3rd string because of the poor play at quarterback. Keep an eye on Jefferson. Jefferson does play for Arkansas. That might make a difference, but I like minus 2 Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin bounces back.
Mm-hmm.
I like USC only 2.5 at UCLA. Are you kidding me, man? I mean, Caleb Williams is probably the best, most exciting quarterback in the NCAA right now. I know it's tough for you to swallow, Joe.
The most exciting one I never watched.
The most exciting one. You're missing a lot, Joe. You're missing a lot. Okay. But I like USC to get it done. I think they'll do it. And again, the same thing in the top 2 teams in the Pac-12 we talked about last week will go to the play December 2nd in Las Vegas. So they don't have the East or West. They just take the top 2 teams. So USC will definitely be one of them. And, you can even see that second team could be anybody. I mean, now that Oregon has 2 losses, Utah can sneak in there. And I think if they beat Oregon this week, then they'll have a good chance it'll be a rematch of that great game of USC and Utah.
Okay, that sounds good. I'd like to see that.
Okay. Since you haven't watched the game all year, if you'll watch that one, okay.
We'll just see how the score is going.
Maybe we'll briefly check channel after a while. All right, that's fun, Joe. All right, so let's go to LSU at home. They're playing UAB. They're giving 14.5. I like them. I don't think UAB can compete. LSU, that's another thing, the SEC, they're going to win the West if they win out. And if they win the West, then they'll play the last game against Georgia, and then they'll play again for the championship because now everybody has 2 losses. So if LSU holds serve, they should be able.
I saw somewhere that LSU is already in the championship game.
So
regardless of what happens.
So, and probably Georgia is too, right?
And Georgia has too.
Georgia has too. So they play their last game against each other, then they'll play again. So there'll be two chances to get in. So
a hockey game now.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. So I like LSU at home. UAB, I think they're going to go ahead and get it done.
Okay.
And that's my picks.
Obviously, I won last week with TCU +7 to Texas. Horned Frogs won outright. That's my only pick again. I'm going back to the well again with TCU.
Well, I mean, right until they show you something wrong, huh?
Yeah. Keep it. When I thought it was -3, I wasn't worried about it. You're saying it's 2.5 now.
2.5 now. Yeah.
No Frogs. I mean, come on now.
No respect for those.
No
guys.
respect.
No respect for the Horned Frogs.
So, Rich, did anything interesting happen in college basketball?
Well, we had on Veterans Day, we had a game on the USS Abraham Lincoln, and it was in San Diego and Port. It was an outside game, so it was very entertaining to watch.
I did watch some of that.
It was definitely entertaining to watch. They could shoot the outside jumpers very well because of the wind.
Right.
So it's just a different atmosphere. You see like how hard it was for them to even shoot free throws because it's just different look and view than what they're used to. That's why I took Michigan State and the points and definitely hit it. So good job, Michigan State. They actually should have won that game outright.
They were leading pretty much the whole game.
Right. And then Timmy came through at the end. So then we also had the championship games last night. Championship series was played in Indianapolis. And so it was a neutral court. Kentucky is 1-4 in their last 5 games on neutral courts, and they lost again. So Michigan State beat them. I took Michigan State and I took the money line. So I had a nice 270 on the bet. So it was almost 3-1 odds.
Very nice.
And then I lost it all on Duke. I bet it back on Duke. I took Duke over Kansas, and Kansas came back and won. They scored 15-5 run at the end of the game. So Duke kind of folded at the end.
Duke's got the new coach. Coach K, no longer there. John Shire's the coach. So it might take a
little bit of time. But Kansas, they're defending champions. All right, let's give them that. They're the defending, champions. So they came back and they showed a little bit of poise and got the win.
All right.
Okay.
So
what about the NBA? Oh, obviously you have anything else?
Well, I think we need to talk to Gator about hockey. What important things occurred in the National Hockey League last week?
Okay, well, we did have 4 NHL players get inducted into the Hall of Fame, Hockey Hall of Fame. Hendrick and Daniel Sundin, they both played for Vancouver. They're brothers. And Roberto Luongo, he played for Vancouver and played a little bit with Florida, but I think more that he's a Vancouver Canadian.
When he played in the finals against the Bruins, right? That was Vancouver, right? That was Luongo.
No, that was Luongo, yeah. And then they lost in the Stanley Cup to the Avalanche.
Okay.
So yeah, but great goalie. Nothing to take away from Roberto. And we have Daniel Alfredsson from Ottawa. I do think that he played 1 year with Detroit in his last year, but most of the time he played with Ottawa.
Right. Okay. Congrats to those guys.
And one more thing, Joe. Friday, it was announced that the World Cup of Hockey was canceled for 2024. Now the NHL and
is that men's? Oh, that's men's.
Correct.
Men's World Cup.
Now the NHL and the NHLPA, they are hopeful for February 2025. I'm guessing, Joe, this is me. It all depends on the war over there.
Well, that's why they canceled in the first place, right?
Yeah. So then
because of the war.
And where we're going to hold it and all that, I don't know.
Come on, Putin, get out of there. Pull the troops back. We want to play some hockey over there.
Time to hit the negotiating table
and
let's have some peace out there.
Exactly.
So we can have some more sports too. That'd be nice. So Gator, who's hot and who's not in the NHL right now?
Well, right now, as far as hot goes, I got 3 teams right now, and I try to put 5 down there, but everybody's so close together after these 3 teams. Boston, they're 11-1 in their last 12, and New Jersey's 9-0 in their last 9. And Vegas is 9-2. They lost last night to the Sharks.
Oh wow,
that was one of my picks.
That must have been what a money line pick, probably about 350 on
minus 290.
All right, good deal.
But that instead of going 6-4 for the 3rd week in a row, I went 5-5 instead. So
yeah, I would have been Vegas on that one for sure.
Better. Now, who's not? Ottawa's 0-7, Buffalo 0-6, and Philly 0-4, and Detroit lost last night to Anaheim So they're 0-4 as well.
Well, Anaheim wasn't playing very well either.
No, and actually they have no regulation wins, Joe. They're 5 and whatever they are. They're 5 wins, but all of them been in overtime or a shootout.
Wow.
But last time Arizona went 20 games in 2017, 2018 before they got their first win in regulation. So that's something to watch for.
Okay.
Good.
Well, yes, your picks went 5-5, putting you at 33-21 for the season. That's still 61%.
Okay.
What are your picks for this week?
Okay. Well, Joe, I have 3 of them on Thursday. I have Vegas beating Arizona, Boston hosting Philadelphia. Boston should win. Detroit should beat the Sharks. Now, this is a rivalry game. It's going to be in the Shark Tank, but I really love the way Detroit's playing right now. And if it gets physical, I think that favors Detroit.
All right.
Now, Friday, I have one game, Los Angeles over San Jose. They're playing back-to-back. So once Detroit gets done pounding on them, LA's turned to pound on them a little bit.
All right.
They'll be tired, I'm sure. Saturday, I have 3. I got Jersey over Ottawa. That's probably going to be a -300 right there, -400. Boston over Chicago. It's in Boston. Philadelphia is playing Montreal. Now, Montreal is playing a lot better. I do give credit to Martin St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
I still like Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in Montreal.
Yeah, he was just the interim coach, and they started playing really well.
And I got a lot of respect
Montreal.
for him. I do. He's turned that team around to at least have some belief that they can play.
One of the smaller players you'll ever see play in hockey.
Exactly.
And he's turning out to be a really good coach.
Now, Sunday, I got one game. I got Pittsburgh over Chicago. At Pittsburgh, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. They're winning games by 1 that they should be killing, and they're losing games that they should win. So I don't know.
But you're taking a shot on them anyway.
Well, yeah, because I don't believe that high in Chicago right now either.
Okay.
Pittsburgh's a better team as far as paper-wise. Come on.
Well, yeah,
they
Pittsburgh's
should be
better
better
than Chicago. Pittsburgh should be playing
way
a
better.
lot better than they are right now.
Monday, I have 2. I got Vegas. That's going to be in Vancouver, but I am taking the Knights. And Toronto is going to be hosting the Islanders. Toronto, see, it's funny that everybody drinks that Kool-Aid because I drank that Kool-Aid this year. They're doing really bad right now. And then they always start after a while, start moving up in those standings. So I think it's time for them to start moving up.
All right. So we'll expect Toronto to improve as the season goes on. Our preseason prediction was pretty strong for them.
I'm still believing that. The only one I'm worried about now is Calgary, but Calgary had a bunch of injuries and they're starting to come back. And again, we're only like 6 weeks, 7 weeks into the season. So
right. Plenty of time. Like the Bruins, they've played 16 games, 14-2.
Yeah.
So
28 points total. They got the most.
So that's 1/5 of the season so far.
Yeah.
Long way to go. All right. So Gator, what transpired in Formula One racing last Sunday?
Okay. Well, Mercedes finally won a race this year. With George Russell having very little resistance. But this team had dominated the sport for the last 8 years, and I don't want people to forget that. So you can kind of understand the frustration when this team hasn't won all year, 20 races. But after the race, Toto Wolff, who's the Mercedes boss, said that George had a water leak on the car, and he wasn't sure if George was going to finish the race or not. What happened was we had a restart on lap 7, and Max Verstappen was alongside Lewis Hamilton, and on turn 1, fighting for position. Well, okay, let me start that over. Max Verstappen was alongside Lewis Hamilton going into turn 1, and they were fighting for second position. But as they were going into turn 2, they made contact, and that dropped both drivers down into the field. Now, the stewards decided that it was Max's fault and gave him the 5-second penalty, and he wasn't too happy about that. But he did fight back to get 6th. Mercedes went 1-2 with Lewis receiving 2nd, George Russell getting 1st. And with Lewis, Ferraris both ended up right behind them with 3rd and 4th. Carlos Sainz got 3rd, and Charles Leclerc got 4th.
All right. So that leaves one final race. Is that next week?
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi?
Dubai.
Oh, okay.
That's in Dubai.
All right.
And the last race of the season is going to be on Sunday, ESPN2. Last year, Max Verstappen won with Lewis Hamilton coming in second. I'm going to go with the Ferraris, Joe. They're double digits, and this is the last race of the season.
Well, let's get an upset going there then. No?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, did you guys see that ex-Major League Baseball player Yasiel Puig got in some trouble?
Yes, he got in a little bit of trouble with the federal authorities. He was doing some illegal gambling. Had lied when he was investigated, lied to the officers that were investigating, federal officers that were, and it carries up to a 5-year sentence in prison, federal prison. And I guess he had a $200,000 cashier's check that he gave them, and he didn't bet on any baseball. He wasn't betting baseball, so that's good. But he is definitely looking at probably doing some time.
No. He played in Korea last year.
Played in Korea. Should have came to Nevada if you like to gamble. That's a great place to be. If that's what you like to do, you don't get in trouble. You'll probably get a free meal. But if you're going to bet that kind of money and free stay at the Pepper Mill. But anyway, that's kind of sad to see. He was like one of the, they thought he was going to be the next Roberto Clemente when he came up with the Dodgers. He definitely was a good Dominican player.
Yeah, there were some mental questions about Puig and some of the decisions he made on and off the field, right. And they continue.
Right.
And it's better that he's in Korea, not playing for Major League Baseball.
They only beat you with a bamboo stick over there. You don't go to jail. You might get a public caning if he keeps it up.
So we can congratulate Buck Showalter, New York Mets manager, who won the Manager of the Year. He's done it with 4 different teams in 4 different decades.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa both won 4 times. Then all 3 of those guys won in both leagues. Terry Francona won in the American League for Cleveland, which happened to be the youngest team in the league. So that was a heck of a job by Francona. Yeah, that was his 3rd.
They got to get an upcoming team out there. The Guardians, not the Indians.
Right. Got to be careful.
He's the first one to win with a new team name. New team name.
Right. Congrats also, rookies of the year: Julio Rodriguez of Seattle, Michael Harris II of Atlanta. Today, Justin Verlander will win the Cy Young in the American League, which will be his 3rd. I'm not sure who's going to win in the National League. There's 2 or 3 guys who have a shot for that. MVPs come out Thursday. And I want to thank Rock and Ronnie McKinnon for his contributions.
Right on.
For that.
Rocky.
Yeah. And a couple other notes. I feel sorry for our new Brooklyn head coach, Jacques Vaughn, because he's got that nightmare to deal with.
And he gets a check. He gets a check.
He gets a check.
It seems like Durant likes to play for him a little bit better. And a little bit other thing on the NBA, the Bucks have lost 3 out of 4.
That's surprising.
That's surprising. They started out really, really hot, and 2 of those they lost to Atlanta. 2 of those losses. So the Celtics are 11-3. They have a 6-game winning streak. They're going to be bringing that into Atlanta, who's playing very good ball tonight. They are favored by 2. I'm going to take Atlanta and take the points, take the dogs with the points. I think they were at home. They're playing great. They could beat the Bucks. They shouldn't have any problems beating the Celtics. I think the Bucks are probably the best team. The West, the Warriors are 6-8. Can you believe that? The Lakers 3-10. So that's the West. So, I don't know, but I think the Warriors did win last night. Poole had 35 points. So I think that they did pull it out last night. And the Suns in Portland and Memphis are top of their divisions.
All right. And one final thing, you might want to check out the Canadian Football League Championship, the Grey Cup, Sunday, this Sunday, I guess, huh? Yeah. The 20th. Winnipeg has been the best team all year. In fact, they won it. The Grey Cup 2 years in a row, I believe.
Correct.
So 3 years in a row.
Looking a little bit like the Patriots up north, huh?
Yeah, well, they're fun to watch if you like watching Canadian football.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. And we do need to mention that the World Cup of Soccer is beginning Sunday. We're going to do a preview show, World Cup Soccer preview. That's going to be on the website. And check that out. Picks and just a preview thing that you can look up. and listen to, just like our show. And we'll have that up.
Yeah.
We'll have that up Thursday or Friday or so.
Good.
And but now it's time that we do the You Got Hose. The times we thought we had winners, and there were a bunch of them last week that sure looked like winners. But at the very end, something went horribly wrong, and we ended up with tickets that were losers.
Right.
And that's our segment we called You Got Hosed.
You got hosed.
So, Gator, you got hosed story?
Yeah, Joe. Well, my whole story is that Minnesota Vikings Buffalo Bills game. For the sports books, if Buffalo covered by 4, 5, or even 6 points, the outcome would have meant a loss on both sides of the bets. Well, with 40 seconds left in the game, it did look like the bettors were going to get to beat the books. But with Josh Allen fumbling the ball on the 1 yard line, that changed everything. Now the bettors who had Buffalo were in jeopardy, and of course the game went into overtime where the Vikings prevailed 33-30. But if you had Buffalo, you got hosed.
Yeah, thought you had a winner there for sure.
Yeah, 3.5.
End up throwing that ticket right in the trash.
You got host story?
Oh, I have to go back. There's multiple host stories, but I'm going to go with the one that happened on the USS Abraham Lincoln, which was a great game. You got to see, very patriotic game. So Michigan State I took the under, and it was at 67, and it was 36-31. It was at 67.5, so I'm winning by the hook. 50 seconds left. Miss. They take a three-pointer. I'm loving it because it's outside. Misses the three-pointer, and Tyson Walker throws it to Trey Hallman, an alley-oop layup with how many seconds? Not one. 0.001 second on the clock to cut it at 68, and I lost over by a hook. Couldn't believe it.
It's got to be a record, Joe.
It's kind of hard to lose by 1,000th of a second. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know they even went that low in basketball to down to the thousands. But that's great.
Now, do you have a You Got Hosed story, Joe?
Well, there were so many to choose from, but I had Chicago, and that Chicago-Detroit game last Sunday, I had Chicago -3. Bears had a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. They did miss an extra point to lead by 13. That should have been the omen right there.
Right.
They end up surrendering a rushing touchdown, passing touchdown, and a pick six in the same game for the first time since 1973.
72.
72.
That's
Incidentally, that was also to Detroit. That pick six, it was Detroit's first in 60 games. Still, the Bears are leading by 6 with 2 minutes left, but they gave up a touchdown and the extra point to lose by 1. That's Detroit's Dan Campbell's first road victory in 2 years as head coach. And it happened
on
right
your
there
ticket.
on
your
ticket.
ticket.
It took all that for me to get hosed.
Yeah, You Got Hosed. I just want to say it was 1973, Joe, not 72. And it was against Chicago again. That was crazy. But yeah, You Got Hosed, Joe.
Yep, sure enough.
You got hosed.
I guess that's it. That's it for the show. I'd like to thank Big Richard Martin, Gator Gates, all our contributors, and our producer, engineer, and Cornelius, and all you listeners out there. And next week, we look forward to bringing you another episode of Covering the Field. And don't forget to check out our World Cup soccer preview.
Sounds great, Joe.
All right.
You've been listening to Covering the Field. Email us at coveringthefield@gmail.com for all your comments or questions. Find us on Twitter @CoveringField. And of course, always check out the website for our picks of the week and updated articles. coveringthefield.com.